I think there's some growing pains that we're starting to go through in the FGC as we do expand, however quickly or slowly. The expansion is undeniable, but when it comes to stuff like this, people aren't really used to so many people having access to them, tweeting them all the time. Media, you have we pretty much have FGC TMZ on YouTube nowadays. There's all kind of dope stuff like with Ernesto. So what could you speak to as far as the growing pains people are going through in the FGC?
Yeah, I feel like this tournament kind of highlighted it because Punk is that dude who's not scared to speak his mind ever, and that's what people love him or hate him for, right? But you can't deny it. It brings the eyeballs, it brings the attention, it brings the hype and excitement, and that's part of what made this tournament so exciting beyond being the highest level gameplay in the world. If these two players were, if it was two IDOM types, right? If Punk had a similar personality to IDOM, it would have been amazing gameplay, but it wouldn't have been the spectacle it was, right? It's the contrast between the two and the discussion that happens around it, which brings out that energy. And I think we're starting to see that sort of interesting player versus media kind of dichotomy forming, and it's very new because this is something I see a lot with traditional sports, and then I see you have to deal with this level of noise. That's kind of what I describe it as when you're in the competitor's position, because I've been in both seats right now. I do the media, do no neutral with you. We both do the competitive side of things as well. When you're on the competitive side of things, it's noise, and I feel like the noise is louder than ever, and players have to be able to deal with that. They have to be able to deal with the disconnect between the Twitter audience, the chat monsters. You hear it all the time. People are like, I can't go back and watch my tournament VODs because if I look at the chat and I see how dumb they are with their analysis, the professional stream monster analysis of, obviously he should have done X, Y, or Z. He should have jumped the command grab right there. Of course, why couldn't he have seen that? That kind of noise.
This can be infuriating.
It's infuriating as a competitor, and it's getting louder. It's getting louder by the day. But on the flip side of that, that's what the growth is. That means there's more eyeballs. That means there's more people who care. You know what? It's better to have a hater because at least a hater cares to tune in. At least they care to watch.
Beautifully said, Brian. And I think that ideally, probably that whole player versus media thing is naturally going to exist to some degree, just like it does in sports. But I do wish that more people could understand the symbiotic relationship that's at play there. In the end of the day, a media personality, player, one they both as a media personality does not want to destroy someone's career or anything like that. If anything, if the players aren't there to do the amazing things that they do on that side of things, then there is nothing to talk about on the media side of things, right? So I think that to some degree people have to understand that it's our job to highlight these narratives that are really there, at least that we see that are there. It's our job to, if I'm going to build up players, if I'm going to praise players for the positive things that occur, all of it matters as a whole. We need the entire story. If anything, your wins are that much more beautiful and triumphant, right? It was beautiful to see Punk tweet out, "Who not clutch?" Right?
He's the definition of clutch.
About.
He's the definition,
I'm the definition of clutch.
That pop off. People felt it. People felt it.
If it would just been, oh yeah, I did it. I did it doesn't hit the same. There's no story behind that. What's someone gonna say about Punk right now when he just won? So you are in control of the narrative. Just understand that we have to bring up both sides. This is what comes with the growth of the FGC, and God willing, eventually things will get to the point where all of this is leading to us growing more and more, so that when you do prove people wrong or prove people right or whatever it may be and create your narratives, create your legacy, it'll make it so that the actual prize that you get in the end hopefully continues to grow and get fatter and fatter, over time.
I'm kind of getting new to the sports world. I'm starting to pay attention a bit more, mostly because the parallels between being a competitor, and now I'm starting to see it as the FGC grows. I'm starting to see the parallels of the professional sports. Browse any Twitter thread about the NBA and see the madness that is occurring.
Yes.
It's the amount of scrub quotes you see from every person. It's just next level. I used to think that the way people talked in the FGC, the spectators because having spectators, having fans is new to the FGC. That's a new thing. Before, we only had one type of individual in the FGC, and that's a competitor. The competitors were also the tournament organizers. They were the people in the bleachers. They were the people there at the venue. There wasn't fans. There was only people who were playing in tournaments. And as we've grown, there's become more of a divide between the people who are consistently competing, the people who are spectating, and fans of just what the competitors do in the scene in general, which is a good thing. It's more people enjoying fighting games, and there's more ways to enjoy fighting games than just purely competing. But since that divide has happened, you would see the people in the Twitch chat, the Twitter monsters, who would talk smack and be like, bro, your win doesn't count, you use Karen, you use Balrog, right? You know how many times I've heard that? How many times I've placed well, beaten a good player, and people just they just take a dunk on me because they can, and they're sitting there, the Twitter fingers going off, and they just do it. And I would be like, what has to go through one's mind to think this way? Because that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And then
I'll tell you what,
I started to see sports.
They deserve to do it.
Right. Well, the thing I realized is, as I watch the sports world, that's what people just love to do, and
yes.
it's a healthy sign. It's a healthy sign. I mean, I don't like it on an individual level, but when you start to zoom back, you start to realize that at least people care. At least people care. Is it kind of stupid? Is that guy who goes, that's not a real ring because this guy's 7 feet tall, he never had to learn how to shoot? I mean, that's a scrub quote from a guy on Twitter, and that's James Harden's direct quote. So it's not even just the fans, sometimes it's other NBA players, right? That's one thing I learned too. So the scrub quotes go all over, but the point is, at least people care. And I think that relationship is something that players have to get more and more comfortable with. Proportionally, you're gonna have also as many more haters as you do have supporters, and that noise is going to grow. And you got to understand that you got to just don't worry about it, keep doing your thing. Those are fans. They might be confused fans, but they're fans. They're watching you do work. That means that there's eyeballs on the scene. People are concerned about it not always being a positive thing. That's like the big deal, is like, as we get into the space of having more discussions and opinion-based stuff like that, people are concerned about it overshadowing just like celebrating success and being a positive, uplifting place for players. But I think there's room for both of these things in the FGC. And as long as we navigate these waters with clear minds, clear heads, we can see that there's a lot of growth to be had and a lot of great experiences to share with the players and the fans alike.